Okay, so yes, AI is now designing and 3D printing viruses that have never existed on this planet before. It is a real thing that is really happening. It's also the kind of thing you'd see in the opening act of a horror movie or a sci-fi novel that cuts to someone in a lab coat or some text overlay that ends with 99% of the global population were dead within the year. Kind of like simian flu from the Planet of the Apes reboot. Well, obviously, scientists don't want to kill all of us. Well, most of them don't. There's always a few that you need to keep an eye on, just in case. But yeah, why exactly are they letting AI make viruses? Well, the simplest answer is to fight antibiotic resistance. You see, ever since humans invented antibiotics, we've been kicking bacterial ass or whatever it is that passes for bacterial buttocks. But we've also gone overboard and kept handing them out like candy to both humans and animals. On top of that, a lot of people were taking them when they weren't supposed to because, hey, I'm sick, so obviously I need antibiotics, and trying to explain to them that antibiotics don't work on viruses was just not happening. Then, on top of damaging their gut biomes with consequences we're still trying to understand, they'd only take the pills until they felt better, leaving the hardiest and most resistant bacteria alive to reproduce. Considering that your typical bacteria lives somewhere between 12 hours and a few days, almost 18,000 microbial generations later, and an awful lot of bacteria developed significant resistance to our weapons against them. Today, almost 5 million people a year die from those superbugs directly or from complications of infections. And it's only going to get worse. Much, much worse. Without antibiotics, a lot of surgeries once again become too risky. Tens of millions of currently minor infections would become deadly, mostly for kids and the elderly. Organ transplants and cancer treatments that lower immune function would eventually get way too dangerous as well. And there's very little incentive or money for pharmaceutical companies to develop new antibiotics, so they just don't. Meanwhile, we're starting to come face to microscope to cell wall with bacteria resistant to carbapenems, our drugs of last resort, the medical equivalent of tactical nukes against mutant microbes. Enter AI. I know that to a lot of people, AI means large language models, but these are much more specialized systems that have been around for decades. They've already found existing and approved drugs with antibiotic properties. They've also found potential new classes of antibiotics. But since we're already behind in the race, and we're still seeing humans and farm animals being pumped full of soon-to-be obsolete antibiotics, scientists have been eyeing a different approach. There are estimated to be something like 500,000 virus species out there. Fewer than 300 of them, or half of 1%, in fact, us. It's not that we're somehow super special, it's that we're actually quite rare. Yes, that sounds absurd because there are 8.5 billion of us, but there are 5 nonillion bacteria on Earth. No, that's not a made-up number. It is a 5 followed by 30 zeros, or a million, trillion microbes, which is why up to 98% of all viruses are bacteriophages, going after the most abundant and longest existing life forms around. The logic is then as follows. If bacteria are used to our chemical weapons and are evolving faster than we can make new ones, why not take advantage of evolution and create new viruses that can hunt them down and adapt to whatever defenses they evolve in real time? And AI goes through all the permutations and comes up with a phage design to hunt down the superbug. We give patients a cocktail of these phages. They hunt down and kill all the bacteria we want them to. Patient feels a lot better. It's been successfully attempted before with naturally existing phage viruses, but the cocktail needs to be pretty complicated because we didn't exactly know what would work best. Here, we specifically designed viruses to go after the bacteria in question with precision that should significantly limit side effects. Oh, and since we made it in the first place, we can use AI to learn how to kill it or stop it in case it decides to chomp on things it really shouldn't. We can also, in theory, use the same techniques to create viruses that attack cancer cells, locking onto their malformed proteins and leaving normal cells alone. Or create gene therapies that don't provoke the ire of our immune systems and let us do all sorts of useful stuff with our DNA. Although, yeah, there's definitely some risk there. It is entirely possible for an aspiring supervillain to use an AI to create bioweapons and succeed. However, it is also possible to use the same exact kind of AI to design antidotes, cures, and vaccines against those exact same bioweapons. And this has been attempted in the lab before. Just, a fun little fact in case you weren't planning on sleeping tonight. Creating new viruses and letting them evolve does mean they could do things that we haven't considered. The risk is technically low, but obviously not zero. And we are very much entering a new and potentially very scary and unpredictable world. But one of the things that I really hope that we learned over the past 6 years is that we're also not safe if we do nothing, especially when we spend decades undermining one of our most powerful medical tools and are now actively undermining another. So we either try and get ahead of nature while we try to fix our rampant overuse of antibiotics with the latest and greatest technology at our disposal, or we let millions die by doing nothing, or 99% of us die and the rest fight over the future of the planet with either zombies or hyper-intelligent apes who have absolutely had it with our bullshit. And who can blame them? We can barely put up with our own.